This week in gaming was basically the Xbox show. A full rebrand, a Game Pass price cut, Call of Duty quietly getting dropped from the service, and one of last year's biggest games just hit a milestone nobody saw coming. Let's break it all down. Let's start with the biggest story of the week. Xbox is basically hitting the reset button on its entire identity. New Xbox CEO Asha Sharma, alongside Chief Content Officer Matt Booty, published an internal memo this week titled "We Are Xbox." The Microsoft gaming name, which was introduced back in 2022 during the Activision Blizzard acquisition, is gone. The division is now simply Xbox again. And look, gamers have been saying for years that the whole Microsoft gaming branding felt corporate and disconnected. Like nobody walked into a store and said, "I want to buy a Microsoft gaming console." You said Xbox. That's always been the identity people connected with, and it feels like Sharma finally just admitted that out loud. To go along with the rename, they brought back the green logo, not the flat, sterile white design that's been around since 2019. We're talking a glossy, neon green logo that looks a lot closer to what Xbox looked like during the 360 era. The internet reacted almost immediately and mostly positively. Mountain Dew even tweeted, "We are so back," with a green heart, which honestly sums up the mood pretty well. It's funny how much a logo color can do for brand sentiment. But here we are. But this isn't just cosmetic. The memo openly acknowledged that Xbox has real problems. Slow console updates, a fragmented user interface, weak PC presence. Sharma's new North Star for the entire division isn't hardware sales anymore. It's daily active players. That's a meaningful shift in how they're measuring success. She laid out 4 priorities going forward: hardware, content, experience, and services. And sitting right at the center of the hardware conversation is something called Project Helix, Xbox's next-generation console, which is confirmed to play both console and PC games. We'll get to that in a moment. The real question worth asking here is this actually meaningful change, or is it a logo swap and a motivational memo? Because Xbox has made big promises before. Remember everything is an Xbox? That campaign went absolutely nowhere and fans hated it. The proof this time will be in what Project Helix actually delivers and whether the content pipeline improves. For now, the early response from the fanbase has been cautiously optimistic. And honestly, after the mess of the past couple of years, cautiously optimistic is a decent place to start. Now let's talk about the move that actually affects your wallet, because Xbox also announced a significant Game Pass price cut this week. And this one has been a long time coming. If you've been on any Xbox forum or subreddit in the past year, you already know. Gamers have been absolutely vocal about Game Pass prices getting out of hand. After 2 consecutive years of price hikes, people were frustrated. Some dropped down to lower tiers, some canceled outright. The feedback was loud and consistent: this thing is getting too expensive. Well, Microsoft heard it. Game Pass Ultimate has dropped from $30 a month to $23 a month, effective immediately. PC Game Pass dropped from $16.50 to $13.99. If you're an existing subscriber, the new rates hit your account starting April 22nd. That sounds like a clean win, right? Well, here's the catch. Starting this year, new Call of Duty games will no longer be available on Game Pass at launch. Future titles will be added to the service the following holiday season, roughly a year after their retail release. So if you want the new Call of Duty on day one, you're paying full price. Existing titles like Black Ops 7 stay in the library, but going forward, day one access is gone. Now here's the context that makes this really interesting. Microsoft included Call of Duty on Game Pass at launch for 2 consecutive years. Black Ops 6 in 2024 and Black Ops 7 in 2025. And by most accounts, the experiment didn't work the way they hoped. Call of Duty is one of gaming's biggest revenue drivers. A game that sells at $70 across every platform. Putting it into a subscription on day one directly undercut those premium sales, and the numbers apparently weren't making up for it. So Microsoft absorbed that loss for 2 years before finally deciding enough was enough. Is it a good deal overall? For most Game Pass subscribers, probably yes. The reality is the majority of people on that service aren't there specifically for Call of Duty. They're there for Game Pass games, day one first-party releases, and cloud gaming. But if you are a Call of Duty player who has been relying on Game Pass to play it for free, you're now either waiting a year or paying $70 on top of your subscription, which stings a little. It's a smart business decision dressed up as a consumer-friendly one. But honestly, I'd still take $23 over 30. Most people would. Okay, let's quickly touch on Project Helix, because it kept coming up throughout everything Xbox announced this week, and it deserves its own mention. What we know is that Project Helix is Xbox's next-generation console, confirmed to play both console and PC games. Sharma has said teams are meeting daily on it, and that she wants Xbox to genuinely lead in hardware performance with this device. Not just compete, lead. Now here's why this matters in the context of everything we just talked about. The rebrand, the price cuts, the strategy reset, the new North Star metrics, all of it starts making a lot more sense when you frame it as runway clearing before a major hardware launch. Microsoft is trying to rebuild trust with the audience, clean up the Game Pass value proposition, and re-establish what Xbox actually stands for, before they ask people to spend money on new hardware. Because if you launch Project Helix into the same environment where gamers are frustrated with prices, confused by branding, and skeptical of Xbox's direction, that console is going to have a rough start regardless of how good the specs are. So, cleaning house now is the smart play. Whether the console actually delivers is a completely separate question, but keep an eye on Project Helix. It's going to be the story of late 2026 and into 2027. And finally, let's end on something genuinely good, because the gaming industry can always use a feel-good story, and this week delivered one. Clair Obscur, Expedition 33 just hit 8 million copies sold, exactly 1 year after its launch on April 24th, 2025. And if you weren't following games closely last year, let me paint the picture for you. This was a debut game from a small French indie studio called Sandfall Interactive. No track record, no existing franchise, no massive marketing budget. And yet somehow it came out of nowhere and just dominated. It swept the Game Awards 2025, won Best Game at the 2026 BAFTAs, and people in gaming communities were talking about it the way you talk about a once-in-a-generation kind of game. You know, the ones where someone says, "This is why I still love this hobby." Yeah, it was that kind of reaction. 8 million copies in 1 year for a brand new IP from a studio nobody had heard of before. That's genuinely remarkable. To put it in context, a lot of big-budget AAA games from established studios don't hit those numbers. It also became the most downloaded new third-party title on Xbox Game Pass in all of 2025, which ties back really nicely to the Game Pass conversation we just had. Expedition 33 is arguably the best argument for why Day 1 Game Pass inclusion can work when the game is actually good. The exposure clearly translated into word of mouth, which translated into sales. That's the dream scenario for the service. To celebrate the anniversary, Sandfall pushed out a small free update this week, adding new anniversary haircuts for every playable character, which honestly is just a very wholesome way to mark a milestone. And they confirmed that Clair Obscur is a franchise going forward. A follow-up is already being discussed, though Sandfall was clear not to expect any big announcements anytime soon. In a week full of corporate drama and business pivots, Expedition 33 hitting 8 million is a good reminder that sometimes a small team with a genuinely great idea still wins, and that never gets old. So, to recap, Xbox dropped the Microsoft gaming name, brought back the green logo, cut Game Pass prices, quietly pulled Day 1 Call of Duty from the service, teased Project Helix as their big next-gen play, and Clair Obscur celebrated one of the best debut years any game has ever had. It's genuinely a lot for 1 week. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is the Xbox rebrand enough for you? Or does Project Helix need to actually ship before you're convinced they've turned a corner? And if you're a Call of Duty player on Game Pass, I want to know how you feel about this trade-off. I'll see you in the next one.